In the previous movie, we talked about how you would access and modify components within a game object. We looked at this script, which was attached to a game object, and we really went through this code right here. This code told us how we would access and modify different components of an object, like its light component, or its transform component, or even its script, another script that's attached to it. But what if we wanted to access the components of a different game object? In other words, let's suppose that this script here was attached to a game object called CoolSphere. And let's suppose we wanted to access and modify the components of a game object called CoolCube. How would we do it? Well, first of all, you've got to gain access to that other game object. Unity provides three ways to do it. The first way is by name. You could say GameObject.findCoolCube. Now notice that's stored in a variable called SomeObject. SomeObject is a variable of type GameObject. GameObject is a generic data type that can really hold any game object. You could also get access to the other game object by going GameObject.findWithTag TargetCube. What's TargetCube? Let me show you. If you go Edit, Project Settings, Tags and Layers, if you go to this tag drop-down, I can create a tag. I created one called TargetCube. And then what I can do is go over to CoolCube and say, I'm going to choose its tag to be TargetCube. Alright? Therefore, Unity knows that anything with the tag TargetCube is what I'm referring to right here in code when I say GameObject.findWithTag TargetCube. Another way to find a reference to a game object is to say GameObject.findObjectOfType. What does that mean? This is a little bit different than probably what you're used to. But let's suppose that CoolCube had a script attached to it called MyScript2. Unity sees that as the type of the game object. So if MyScript2 is attached to CoolCube, then we can say GameObject.findObjectOfType MyScript2. Now, once we gain access to that other object, which now we refer to as SomeObject, we can do what we did before. We can say SomeObject.getComponent, like getComponentLight, and then we can change the type of light. We can say SomeObject.transform, and then we can say .translate, .rotate, or .local scale. And we can do some of the things we did before. Now you might notice that the difference between manipulating the components of other objects and the local current object is that when you do it for other objects, you have to say the name that you gave for the reference to that object, in this case SomeObject, instead of what we did up here, where we just said transform.rotate or transform.translate. Here we're going to say SomeObject.transform.translate. Another thing that's really neat is once you have a reference to another object, you can actually manipulate its script or call methods on its script. So remember, MyScript2 was attached to this CoolCube, and I have a reference to CoolCube called SomeObject. So I can say SomeObject.getComponent MyScript2. Once I have that reference, I can call a method on that script. That's pretty neat. I can get a reference to another game object. I can call a method on a script that is attached to that game object. So we'll go over these things in class a little more, but hopefully this video gives you a little overview.